Despite going into the international break on the back of two impressive away performances, Blues manager Gary Rowett thinks it came at a good time for his squad.
You can argue about the 2 games, 2 wins. Did we want the international break? I think we needed it, just because 1 or 2 players had played, or more than 1 or 2, had played a lot of those games. You know, played a lot of those games in consecutively. And I think you could just sense that we probably needed a little bit of downtime just to get through that. So, yeah, they've been really bright this week. Worked incredibly hard on a number of things. You know, done a couple of sessions that were tactical based, and a couple of sessions that were just really sharp and really intensive. And very pleased how the week's gone.
The Blues boss admitted he's been pleased with the impact his recent changes have made.
Well, he's a good player, Davo, and I said that to him again. You know, when he wasn't playing, I said, look, you've got to be patient. We brought Michael in, and at the moment he's playing with Glees, and he's done very, very well. And you know, there's no reason for me to change it or to leave him out. And you've got to wait, you know. But I think and it's genuine this season, where perhaps last season I had to manage some of the ones not in the team. And I'm not saying I had to be creative with some of my reasons, but I think, you know, it was harder last year in terms of that. This year, I think, you know, having players in and saying, listen, you will be a big part of what we're doing this season, I think we've showed that already. I think you can look at Robbo in the last couple of games, you can look at Dave over the last couple of games, and I think you can see that every member of our squad this year will need to have an impact. And I think that's been one of the most pleasing attributes of the last couple of games, is that the players that, you know, weren't in the team have come in, and you could argue in some ways have strengthened the team in their own right because of their desire to stay in the team. And, you know, as a manager, that's exactly what you want for your substitutes bench and the players that have not played. You know, you want them to come in and make the team better when they get the opportunity. You know, I always like to try and reward players when they've done well. I said it before, at the moment Jonathan Spector had been very, very unlucky not to play the last 2 games, but I did that for reasons beyond footballing reasons, you know, that I felt he needed a breather. I felt that we'd get more out of him for the rest of the season. I think he kind of knew when I said it, what would happen if we were to be brilliant for the next 10 games. But I think that's the risk you always take as a manager, and you have to deal with that when it comes. But I'd rather deal, like I said before, I'd rather deal with problems having won the last 2 and kept 2 clean sheets. And when you know, when you lose games, it's pretty easy, really. Your excuse is there to change the team pretty much. Well, as I said, you know, that's my job, and I'll pick which team I think is the best team, not which team, you know, I think deserve to always play. You know.
Rowett also thinks the break not only came at the right time for his squad, but also for Demarai Gray.
He's trained this week. He didn't train last week. I spoke to Keith Downing, who's in charge of England under-20s, and I just said, I was quite honest with Keith. I just said, look, he's struggling. You know, he's come off today where his groin was sore. I think that built up over a week or 2, and I just said, look, you know, I'd never ever discourage anyone for travelling away with the international squad, but I think that neither of us will have him available if he just keeps playing and keeps training. You know, he would have gone there and played another 2 or 3 games. So I think the thing from like really appreciate England's backing on it. You know, and I think it's real common sense that he's had a break, he's needed a break. You know, I won't tell you what happened, but he more or less alluded it to himself. He said, I'm absolutely knackered, like, you know, and then proceeded to go on about another 3 sprints afterwards. But you could tell he was struggling a little bit at times towards the end of the Leeds game. And I think the fact that he's now had a week's breather, and he literally has had a week's breather. He's done some light training early this week, and hopefully, you know, we'll all see the benefit of that long term, which I think is important when you've got a young player. You know, you can't ask too much of them all the time because, you know, there's only so much they're going to be able to do. In terms of injuries, Cots should train at some point next week, we're hopeful. Neil Eardley as well should train at some point next week, which will basically mean there's no one injured, provided we get through the weekend fine.
With QPR the top scorers in the Championship, the manager realises the quality the London side possess.
When you go through their players, you know, I think the biggest thing that we've had to highlight in today's meeting is just down to the fact they've got some real good individuals, you know, some really talented individuals, particularly in forward areas, and that's going to be the biggest factor in winning tomorrow's game. You know, we're going to have to deal with those individuals, and we're going to have to play like a team, and we're going to have to be very, very strong, and we're going to have to be very, very organised, and we're going to have to show some real energy and quality. You know, and if we can do all of those things, I think we can beat any team in this division, regardless whether it's QPR or not. But they've certainly got some good players in there, and they've got a vast array of players that they can choose from. They're a very attacking side, and that's probably playing to their strengths in terms of, you know, they've got lots of good forward players. As we know, any team, you know, we've done it before, where if you do try and commit lots of bodies forward, then you end up leaving lots of gaps. You know, you saw it last year against, I think it was Ipswich. You know, we played 4-4-2, 2 wingers, 2 strikers, out and out. And at times you've then got 4 or 5 players out of the game, and sometimes it's very difficult to cope with that space as a team defensively. So I think that, you know, listen, it's not really for me to sort of open up on ways we think we can win the game tomorrow or ways we think QPR could beat us. I think we've got an overview of it. It's about us competing like we've got to compete, and it's about us, you know, getting back to winning ways at home. And we know it's going to be a tough test. You know, we know they've got lots of good players, but so have a lot of other teams in the Championship.